don't expect things to click instantly. I think we live in a world of such instant gratification, and granted, swiping culture has also kind of made that worse, where we're like, I can just instantly go find a date for tonight if I really want to. And then when you and I set people up, I know a lot of people, I kind of have to coach them out of that mindset of, oh, I'm going to be in love at first sight and be swept off my feet. I wish life was a rom-com, but it's not. Just think about like your best friend. When you met them, did you know you would be best friends right away, or did it take some time? Obviously you need to have that attraction up front, but go on 2, 3, 4 dates and see how things develop.
Welcome to the Asian Dating Podcast. I'm your host, May Bugenhagen. I am the founder of Two Asian Matchmakers, and it's a boutique matchmaking company that serves men who are the paying clients that want to meet Asian women all across the world. So if you are a lovely Asian woman, I would love to get in touch with you. I also help men of all ethnicities who want to meet Asian women. And I interview 2 people a week for my podcast. And this week I have Abby Rosenblum. She is the founder and head matchmaker of The Social, Modern Matchmaking. She brings singles together through blind dates and interactive single events in Denver. She has a passion for connection and helps her clients get over roadblocks in dating to end up in a happy and healthy relationship themselves. Welcome to the show, Abby. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me, May. I'm excited to chat with you and honored to be with a fellow matchmaker.
I love it. I love it. I love hanging out with matchmakers because I like finding out like how they do business, what their thoughts are, and their unique dating tips for the people listening. And it's always very helpful, I feel, to get different point of views. And I also love opposite point of views. I don't anticipate everyone to agree with me or I agree with everyone else, but there's actually a great way to learn about what other people are thinking and things like that. So yeah, I love it. I love it. I know before we started recording, we were talking about, gosh, it's almost end of August and cuffing season is coming up. So
it's around the corner.
can you tell the audience a little bit about what cuffing season is and what that entails and all that good stuff?
Oh yeah, I feel like this is like my bread and butter now. Like I could just go to sleep when it's not cuffing season. And then once the weather starts to turn, everyone wants to date again. So, we were even talking before, we're like, can we get a good definition of cuffing season? And I pulled one up from Urban Dictionary. So it's, usually the colder months, fall or winter, when new relationships start, old relationships turn into engagements, people want to get all wiped up. We don't know exactly why the word cuffing is in there. Maybe I should just make something up and start telling people that. And I do notice a trend of more people wanting to come to my singles events, more people reaching out to me, and people being more open to being in relationships. I mean, I think in lots of businesses in the summer, people are traveling and kind of non-committal. And then when it gets colder, they're like, okay, I want to settle down. Do you see that too?
I know you did mention that your busy time is after summer, right?
Yeah.
I kind of feel like busy time is all throughout the year, and it, I guess, elevates more around New Year's and Valentine's. I feel like it does slow down for me around Thanksgiving and Christmas. So
Yeah.
people say, oh, what are your goals for the year? What do you anticipate on accomplishing this 2023? And I basically eliminate November and December. I just feel like, okay, I just have 10 months to focus on my business. So now with August almost coming to an end, I have September and October, like really 2 more months to make a difference. So yeah, I do feel like summer people's mentalities are like, oh, I'll just go out and meet people on my own organically. I'll go to parties, I'll go to the beach, I'll go and hike and meet people that way. So maybe they feel like they have so much going on spending time in the outdoors that they don't want to focus on paying a matchmaker to find them dates when they should be out there looking. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Right. I mean, I hope that people are out and about trying to meet people all the time if you're single. I think I was joking with someone the other day that, if you're like, hey, I want to meet someone. And then if I ask you, like, what did you do this past week? And you're like, well, I didn't leave my house. You might not exactly be on the market to be meeting people. So, I think, yeah, I don't know. It is interesting. Like I could take off the whole summer, and I kind of did because I had a baby. But yeah, it is interesting with like even with our different matchmaking businesses, you know, that you in November and December are slower. I noticed that too with the holidays. But then I also see an uptick at the holidays because people go home and their parents are like, "Why are you still single?"
Mm, okay. Do you find you do singles events also in Denver? So these meet in person events, do they get more popular around holidays when it gets cold and they want something to do, part of the whole cuffing season? Like they just think, okay, now's my chance to meet people, and they go out and meet people through your events?
Yeah, the events I feel like is not seasonal at all. It is just kind of consistent that people have such a desire to come to these singles events, which is awesome. We always have a lot of people at our happy hours, at speed dating, anything in between, because I think this desire to have a place where everyone is single and relationship minded, like it's really high to people want that because it's hard to find. People don't really go out to a bar and say, oh yeah, I met like a nice person at a bar last night. So I think having this place where everyone has a common goal has been something people just consistently are really wanting, especially post COVID, of just having in-person interaction.
So, what do you advise people to act like or look like or behave at these singles events? Like, if you had a sister or brother or cousin that you really want them to excel in these singles events out and about, what would you suggest that they do? Like,
Oh yeah.
insider tips.
Great question. Is A, come with an open mind. I think a lot of people show up with their mind already made up, like, ugh, I'm not going to meet anybody, or everyone here is going to be weird. Who even goes to singles events? But I can promise you that lots of non-weird, cool people and weird in their own way people are at these singles events. So I think A, come with an open mind, B, maybe bring a friend or a wingman or wingwoman, because it's always hard, even if it's not a singles event, to walk into a room of total strangers. Or I always tell people, use me as like your comfort zone, happy place, because I kind of go around and make sure everyone is meeting the people they need to meet. And I think the other thing people should think about too is that at least all the events I host have some structure. So you're never walking in and you're just like, okay, I have to go approach someone. Like I'm always going to either put you into speed dating or introduce you to someone and give you something to talk about or say why you two should talk. So I think I've never had anyone leave an event and be like, wow, that was like way worse than I thought it would be. Because usually the bar is pretty low of like, okay, I have no idea what a single event's going to be. This could be a little strange. But they're always fun. And I think the biggest thing, having an open mind that you might meet a new friend, you might meet a romantic connection, you might meet a business connection. I think it's all about just bringing new people into your lives. And you never know if that one person you didn't click with might have a single friend who's a good fit for you too.
Yeah, I used to host speed dating events in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I hope to continue to do them. I stopped right before COVID and haven't continued after COVID. But I always felt like maybe 20% of the people who came are weird and people that you wouldn't hook up with or wouldn't care to exchange information. 20% are like really cute, really hot, and you're like, wow, I'm surprised they're here. And then there's the 60% that I feel like are normal and average and above average that you should get to know and you should have an open mind to meet. So that's kind of what I tell them. Like, yes, 20% of them are probably going to be weird, awkward, don't want to
Yeah.
talk to you, not make eye contact. And 20% are going to be like, wow, they're pretty cool. I wonder why they're here. Like, who dragged them here? And then the 60 are like the people that you have a shot at. So that's kind of how I explain it to people. And they're like, oh, yeah, it makes sense. Like 20% of the people in my life are really hot. And you might have some awkward 20% of the people that you're friends with, but you're not like dying to be friends with, I guess. So yeah. What do you think about
Okay.
that
Yeah.
analogy?
I think you're pretty spot on with that. Because, since I'm not handpicking people for a lot of these events, sometimes I will do like an invite only thing where it's like I want to make sure these people meet at a dinner or something like that. But usually I'm like, hey, come as long as you are relationship minded and in the right age range, you know, come and meet new people.
Yeah.
And, I always tell people too that, most of the people out there are not going to be for you. So even if you meet someone, let's say you're doing speed dating, and I usually do 5 minutes for each round, maybe you're meeting someone and you're like, okay, I know this person isn't for me. Use it as a time to like test out random questions that you might ask and see how people respond, or a time to like just research what you like and what you don't like. Because none of it should feel like a waste of time, is my whole mentality.
I tell people that you want to see if you're a good dater. So whether it's like a 1 hour date, 90-minute date, or speed dating 5 minute date, your whole goal is to be so pleasant and so interactive and so engaging that that person wants to ask you out again. That's good practice for you to be a good person and to be kind and generous with your time, and just to bring them out of their shelves. If they are awkward or they're talking too much, you can really try to like help them in a way, I guess. And I don't know, there's just so many ways to be a good dater. And I just find that if you can't be pleasant to someone for 5 minutes, maybe you shouldn't even be dating. Like, how can you be a
Yeah.
miserable person that you can't be nice to someone for 5 minutes at a speed dating? So, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So there you go. Good practice.
Good
Exactly.
practice.
And
Good practice.
how do you like run your speed dating events? Do you feel like there's a magical time amount for people to be talking, or
Yeah, I used to do like 4 minute dates, but 4 minute did not count the time that they wrote down who they liked and took notes. So I
yeah.
only would ring the bell after 4 minutes and then give them time to maybe like 30 seconds to write down notes really quick if they liked them or not, and just to remember who they were, like just even a happy face, or, oh, she was a teacher, very sweet, or no way, we're totally different, or whatever. Like, just
Hmm.
take any kind of notes, because you think you're going to remember, but there's no way you're going to remember 15 people you met and be able to tell me who you liked and who you disliked at the end of the night. So,
Oh yeah.
but yeah, how I did the speed datings were kind of different in the sense that I would have them fill out a profile beforehand. So it's just like a little, 3x5 card where they write down, their name, where they live, what they do for a living, favorite hobbies, favorite music, favorite vacation spots, and that's it. So when they sit down,
Hmm.
they just exchange the profile cards with each other. That way you could just look at it and be like, oh, you love Fast and Furious. I love those movies too, and just have something to talk about. And
Yeah.
that way, because 4 minutes can go by fast if you're talking about something you like, and then they move on. Then they stop the date, and then they exchange the profile cards back, and then you give it to your next date. But the
Ooh,
whole point is not to be like, oh, so Abby, where do you live? What do you do? Like the same
God, that
questions,
gets
right?
so old. Oh my
Right.
God.
Right. So it's just like a shortcut to the speed dating. It's like, okay, write down, you know, your motto, or write down your favorite vacation spot. So then people can just look at it and be like, oh, I love Italy too. I was just there last year. What did you do there? Like, that way they could just quickly jump in with something to talk about.
Hmm.
But
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
I love speed dating. I think they're the best way to meet people, because where else are you going to go to meet like 15 dates in like couple hours? It's like, sometimes people are so horrible online or in photos that, hey, if you're not photogenic, this is your chance to shine at a speed dating event, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Or if the algorithm just for some silly reason doesn't favor you, I think dating apps are so tough in so many ways. And I always say it's like swiping in real life when you're doing speed dating. It's a way better use of 2 hours of your time than sitting on your couch and swiping through Hinge or whatever app insert here.
So what other apps tips can you give people, like, to refresh them in case they are
Yeah.
already doing online dating, but they're like, oh, okay, maybe I could use some dating advice on that. So what are some things that you can share with the audience about? dating apps?
Really? Yeah, I have been doing a lot of work with people to just totally revamp their profiles. So it's kind of like an additional service that I offer because I'm always like, hey, use everything at your fingertips as long as it is a positive force in your life. If dating apps have got you burnt out, by all means, delete them, stop doing it, and just work with a matchmaker like one of us, or go out and meet people in person. But dating apps for some people are fine. They don't get burnt out. They don't feel bad about it. And I've kind of created this whole way you can be more mindful about your swiping. And the biggest thing is really setting like boundaries and time limits with how much you're on there. So my first piece of advice is, pick one app and focus on that one. You're not missing anything by not being on 3 or 4 or 5, etc. It's just going to burn you out. And it's honestly all the same people on all the apps. So, may you tell me if you disagree. But, pick the one that you feel best about. Don't start out paying for it, would also be my advice. Like, try to do the free version. I think your money can probably be better spent elsewhere, is in my humble opinion. So, actually have everyone make sure they turn off notifications for the dating apps, set a screen time limit of like, okay, I'm only going to go on for 30 minutes a day and really stick to that. The other thing is you got to have good photos. As annoying as it is totally superficial because you're going on there and you're saying, is this person attracted to me or are they not? So, make sure you get a fancy iPhone out there to take good photos and hire a friend or get a photographer because it is worthwhile to have good pictures. Make sure you don't have sunglasses and hats in every single one. And for our Colorado guys, please, no more pictures of you holding fish. That's the biggest complaint I get from women.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I was just helping a woman on doing online dating, and I realized that I took a lot of time in putting her profile together, and the men are not explaining who they are or talking about themselves. Like they're barely using periods and question marks, and just there's this one guy I was trying to like talk to on behalf of my client,
Mm-hmm.
but he would respond to the questions I asked him, but he didn't ask her any questions. Like he didn't invite her out or didn't have the next plan of action. Like maybe he wasn't interested, but I was like, wow, he like replied and everything in a timely manner, but yet he just stopped there. He didn't invite her out, ask for her number or nothing. So I feel like the men can also use a lot of help with the online dating aspect. And that's just by having a complete profile. Like, why are men
Oh
so
yeah.
lazy with that?
Well, and honestly, I do see more men reaching out to me for help with dating apps too, because men traditionally don't get as many matches or messages, whereas women do get way more matches and messages than men do online. And I think too, like people just don't even know where to begin. What I notice is like when they reach out, they're like, oh, like I should have an open-ended question here so that like, someone can respond to it. Or I should say, I'm looking for a relationship so that I can weed out the people who are not.
Yeah.
So it's like use the prompts in a way that is helpful to filter through people rather than just trying to say something funny like, do you like pineapple on pizza? Sure, that could be one of your prompts, but make sure the other ones have some substance to them. So you can
Yeah.
kind of like lead people to know you're looking for something serious, you're a stable human being, and you're also real because there's a lot of fake profiles out there.
Yeah.
And then my one tip I really want to give to everyone too is sometimes you can get into a rut in an app where you are just consistently not getting any matches that are people you would actually want to date. So if you feel like you're in that place where you're like, oh, I'm just swiping through and no one is interesting to me, fully delete, don't just deactivate or cancel or pause, fully delete your profile, delete the app from your phone and start fresh.
Mm.
You could have the same photos and bios. It somehow like resets the algorithm and maybe puts you at the top of the stack or something. And I've noticed that really helping. So if you feel like if you're listening, you're in one of those ruts, do the full delete and come back.
Do you have to do the full delete and come back with like a new email address, or everything can be the same, just a complete profile.
Yeah,
Like,
you can still have the same email, same phone
okay.
number. It's just like about completely deleting it. Because think about if you've been like on and off of there for a handful of years. I think there's something that goes on with the algorithm. I can't say what because I'm not in there, but I've observed this with a lot of people where that like hard reset really works well.
So what online app would you suggest somebody in their 60s and 70s to use? Like, what are some good ones?
Yeah, I would say, Match is still pretty good. You do have to pay for that, but it is a decent one. And then I haven't had a ton of people in that age range reach out to me for help with dating apps, but I have recommended there is one, I think it's called Our Time,
Okay.
that I think is the most popular one from what I've been reading.
Okay. What
So
about somebody in their 40s and 50s?
40s and 50s, I would say Hinge. Especially if you are listening and you are in Denver, Colorado area. I know for a fact that's the most popular one here, because that's the area I'm mostly in. So Hinge, and especially for like even younger, like 20s, 30s, still Hinge too. Um, I would say if you're in Denver.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So your specialty is what age range? Like 30s, 20s, 30s, 40s?
I get every age. I think my youngest client right now is like 25, and the oldest person I have in my database is 82. So I have like the whole wide range, but definitely most people are like probably 30 to 50 is the
Okay.
majority. Yeah,
And you set people up on blind dates, right? Like, why did
I
you
do.
decide that to be your business model?
It's a good question. I wanted people to really go in with an open mind. Obviously I know I'm not like living under a rock that people need to be attracted to each other. We can't deny that. So I do like a lot of talking with people of who they're attracted to, what features they're attracted to, all of that too, before I set them up. But I always think that if I give someone a photo, it's like if they're super, super attractive, they might put them on a pedestal and then go on the date and get super disappointed. Or, like you said, if someone just isn't photogenic, then they're not going to get any dates, which is also kind of sad, because they might be like such an awesome person and really attractive in person. So that's kind of why I do the blind dates. And yeah, honestly, I've kind of just always done it because I thought it was kind of fun too. And I know there are definitely a lot of people who don't like blind dates, and I don't blame anyone for that because it is so much trust to be putting into me, like a semi stranger. We've gotten to know each other a little bit, to just be setting you up with someone you've never seen.
So, what is one successful story you have when the age range is like maybe 45 and under, like that they were pleasantly surprised by the lack of photos, but how they trusted you to set them up and it worked out?
Yeah. Ooh, yeah, I have a great story from a couple that went out. I think they've been on like 3 dates now. So this is who knows if this will last, but we'll do this as our story. They went out a couple weeks ago, and the guy, we had kind of gone back and forth for a while. He was like, I don't know, I'm worried about the blind dates. I kind of already told you how it ended, but he was like, I'm worried about the blind dates. I just don't know, Abby, if you're gonna get it right of who I'm attracted to. And we sat down and we swiped through Hinge profiles together. I had him send me pictures of women he has dated and has been attracted to. And I sent him out with Mystery Woman. And all he got is a first name and a phone number, and that's all she got too. And they were both pleasantly surprised. And he's like, whoa, okay, now I get it. And it is kind of exciting, but obviously I sometimes have to do like a little trial run to be like, I know what you want. It's okay.
Right, right. Yeah, that must be hard for them to, they just have to be open-minded, right? They just have to be like,
Yeah.
okay, I trust you. I've had enough conversations with you. You should know what I like. But do blind dates only work if both parties are good-looking people or both parties are people who other people are looking for? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
it must be
I
so
mean,
hard. I feel like, yes, showing photos makes my job harder because people have the opportunity to say no, but
yeah.
blind dates must be harder because you hope that they would be attracted to each other. Like they didn't even give you an okay about that person.
Right.
Right.
I know. And it's funny because I almost think your job's harder because then when people say no, you're like, oh my God, okay, now I got to go find more
Right.
people.
Right.
Yeah. And I think, of course, it definitely happens where people are like, I wasn't really attracted to them. And then it's an opportunity for me to get feedback of like, okay, how often do we actually think about like, is there something you are not attracted to in that person? Like, what was the actual turn off? Because it's kind of hard to put words to sometimes. Sometimes it's just a feeling, which, then I'm also just like, okay, this is a fun job we have.
Now,
But
how did you get started in matchmaking? Like what led you down to the matchmaking path?
yeah, so I was, working as a TV producer before. I know we were talking about this before we started, and I was dating a ton and having a great time. I was just doing dating apps. That was my main jam, and I did end up meeting my husband that way. So I guess I, kind of match made myself with the help of the league, and through all that, saw my girlfriends doing the same thing and not having as much fun as I was having. I don't know why. I'm a total extrovert. I just liked going out all the time and meeting new people, whether they were a fit for me or not. So then I kind of started running my friends' dating apps for them. Then I thought, why don't I get people together and start introducing them? Why don't I go out and try to find people for my friends? And then I realized that this is a job. And I
Yeah.
was like, whoa, I could do this as a job. So I set up a website, did it for fun on the side. And then during the pandemic, went full time and have been doing that ever since. And I just hit my 5-year anniversary, actually.
Congratulations. That's a big deal, right? To
Thanks.
be able to survive for 5 years. They do say that all businesses need like to hit the 5-year mark before they know that they can continue with
Yeah,
their business. So awesome.
thanks. I mean, it is crazy too, of like, I think 90% of businesses fail in the first year. So, it's pretty amazing that we can both say that we have obviously survived much past that.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, what is one dating tip that you used to give to people that you no longer tell them to do?
Ooh, okay, that's interesting. God, I don't know. I might have to think about this one for a second.
Okay, you could think about it.
Yeah,
And
I
just
know.
something that you thought that it was true or that it works, but then as time went by, 5 years later, you're like, huh, that is actually not what I preach anymore, or not what I believe in anymore. But yeah, you can come back to it. No worries about that.
Oh, yeah, you stumped me. Sorry.
And that is the first time I've asked that question because I had it on my list
Ooh, I like it.
questions, and I was like, oh, let me just use my list of questions. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Do you have one? I'm sure over the course of your business, maybe you've shifted some things, or is there something that comes to mind for you?
A lot of things actually. When I first started this business 15 years ago, I thought that people having a list or deal breakers list or must haves list was so important. It's like, yeah, just write down 10 things that you believe in and just go by that list. But now I'm like, no, instead of going by that list 100%, I believe if someone just met 80% of your criteria, then just go for it. Kind of like what you were saying, being open minded and stuff. Like I used to think, you know what, have this list, go with it, and then you won't be disappointed. But now
Mhm.
it's like, no, you should be a little bit more open minded with what you're deciding to do with your life. Because as I've been in my relationship for 16 years, I realized some of those things that I thought were so important were really not important. And I feel like, oh, here's another tip. I feel like asking married friends for dating tips and advice is so much more valuable than asking a single friend who might not have your best interests at heart. And I know that's kind of harsh, and it's good that I'm talking to you because you are married and you're not like a single matchmaker.
Hey, I would never
But
take it personally.
yeah, but that has dawned on me. Like as years have gone by, I'm like, talking to women and she would say, oh, my girlfriend suggested this. And I'm like, wait, she's a girlfriend. Yes, she has your best interests at heart, supposedly, but she's giving you bad advice. I secretly think that she is secretly thinking you should be single with her.
Ooh, yeah.
So you just got to be careful with who you take advice from. But you should
Hmm.
also take advice from people who are similar to you, that you respect their opinions, not just about dating, but about advice in general, right? Because you don't
Oh,
just
yeah.
go to anyone for advice. You want to kind of handpick the people you want to ask quality questions to. So yeah, just stuff like that
Hmm.
I've thought about over the years, like, huh,
Yeah.
I don't think I would say ask your single girlfriends for advice anymore. It's like, no, you should probably ask your married friends for advice.
Right. I wonder too, like some married people, at least that I know, are like almost too out of touch with like what it's like to be single. I think it's like, again, you got to find the right person.
Right. Right. You have to, I guess, ask them if maybe they're happily married and you see like you want a relationship like theirs, so you look up to them,
Yeah.
so I guess it can't just be any married person, but it's somebody that you feel like, okay, she's kind of in touch with dating too, maybe she has kids that are my age, that might give me good advice. Or I guess just find people who you want to ask for quality advice and just be picky
Oh,
about
yeah.
that. So,
And having, I think, that relationship role model in your life is so important because not everyone has that role model from their parents. I think many of us come from divorced parents or families where we didn't have this like relationship that we want to then exemplify in our own lives. So maybe it is finding those married friends or couple friends where you're like, okay, your relationship is really strong and I want to be like you guys, so like
right,
teach me your ways.
right, right. Any last minute tips you want to give people out there, whether it's your age, whether they're in Denver or not? Like, what's something that you want to share with them that you feel like it would benefit them, since you've been doing this for 5 years now? Like,
Yeah. Well, hey,
enlighten
nothing compared to your experience in this field, but I will do my best. So, I think the biggest thing I would want to impart to people is don't expect things to click instantly. I think we live in a world of such instant gratification, and granted, swiping culture has also kind of made that worse, where we're like, I can just instantly go find a date for tonight if I really want to. And then when you and I set people up, I know a lot of people, I kind of have to coach them out of that mindset of, oh, I'm going to be in love at first sight and be swept off my feet. I wish life was a rom-com, but it's not, but we can still make it, half as good. So, the thing that I want to tell people too is think about like your best friend. When you met them, like, did you know you would be best friends right away, or did it take some time? I think almost everyone would probably say it took some time. I know with some of my best friends, the first time I met them, I was like, they're weird. I don't know if I'm even going to be friends with them ever again.
they were the
So
20%. Just kidding.
exact, I am definitely the weird 20%. So, I think just a little food for thought of like, give it some time. Obviously you need to have that attraction up front, but go on 2, 3, 4 dates. You're not wasting anyone's time and see how things develop.
Yeah, I feel like if people have a lot of suitors knocking on their doors, that it's okay to date more than one person at the same time. I'm not saying to sleep with them at the same time, but I'm saying it's okay if you're seeing, two guys here and one guy over here, and you're just getting to know them. You're going out meeting at coffee shops or meeting for dinner or an activity, and just to compare, right? Like it's okay to
Oh
compare
yeah.
and contrast and see how you feel when you're around them. It's like you're seeing these three guys, and one guy's communication skills is really good. He calls you, he texts you, and you're like, huh, I actually like that. I like how his communication style is. And then you can then think, okay, but I really like this guy. I'm really attracted to him. So it's like maybe it's your opportunity to tell that guy how you like to be communicated with and to, and that way you can kind of like set these boundaries with these men that you're dating to see who rises to the top, like who makes you feel the best, who treats you the best, who you have the most in common with. And it's okay to date, like go out on 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 dates with them just to see how things are. And I feel like people are so worried about leading someone on, or I don't want to hurt their feelings if it doesn't work out. It's like, how would you know if it's going to work out or not if you don't give it a chance? Like, I,
Mhm.
I even have guys that I work with that are like, well, I don't want to lead her on, so I don't want to ask her out again. It's like, well, but you don't know if you want to be with her or not. So this is what dating
Yeah.
is. Dating is meeting people, talking to people, and getting to know people. And so it's like, don't be so afraid of that. Like, I guess you kind of have to be selfish and just figure out, okay, how do I like them? I want to figure out if I like them or not. Like, don't be so worried
Mhm.
about hurting their feelings if it doesn't work out. It's like you need to figure it out. It's why it's called dating. So,
Oh yeah, and I think you'll hurt people's feelings a lot less if you give them a chance. If you're writing people off just after an hour or two of being together, I think that's almost a little bit harsh, giving them more of a chance of giving them a few more dates. I think people will actually be happier with that. Obviously, I tell people if there's some huge red flag or something that is a total deal breaker on the first date, by all means, like you don't need to go out with them anymore. And I don't know if you watch Jewish matchmaking, but the matchmaker on that show had like the best saying, that it was like date them till you hate them, which I love. So
right,
it's just like
I
keep
agree.
getting to know them. Why
Yes,
not?
yes, I agree with that. And I know you said something about friends. Like when you first made friends with somebody, you didn't know if they're going to be your best friend or a good friend. Like it took you maybe 2 or 3 times to meet with them and do stuff, have lunch or go do an activity before you realize, do I even want to be friends with them? And
Yeah.
that same thing with dating. Like I don't understand why people are so quick to write someone off when like you're looking for a life partner. Like why wouldn't you want to explore and see if you're compatible? So
Oh,
yeah.
100%. And explore different settings, do a walk, do an activity, go get dinner, and kind of see and build that intimacy rather than, doing a candlelit dinner as your first date.
Right, right. Well, Abby, thank you so much. I will put all of your contact information in the show notes. And thank you for joining me today on the Asian Dating Podcast, where I help men and women date and find love. And hopefully, if you are single out there, please go to my website at twoasianmatchmakers.com. Fill out a profile with me. So, ladies, I know where to find you and I can set you up for free. Men are the paying clients. So if you're looking to hire a matchmaker, I would love to help you out. Thank you, Abby, for joining me on the show today. And I will see everybody later. Thank you.
Thank you, May.
Bye.
Bye.